Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the Collider Games podcast. My name's Tzeng. We got a full house today. First up, we've got Tom.
Hey, hi. Which camera do I look at?
You guys
that
look
one.
at
I gotta
that
look at that
one.
one. All right.
You're that one. Everyone's got their own camera. Tom, who you guys may have known, was on our Death Stranding review.
I was, yeah.
Which, I was surprised at, the kind of, I don't know, all of us were kind of disappointed with it, and then later I saw a lot of reviews that were very, very positive.
Yeah, and now it's a Game of the Year contender. It's like,
wow.
Did we play the same game?
Yeah. Also in studio, we've got Josh
Weyers.
How you doing?
Wonderful.
And then through the magic of Skype, we've got Caboose. Caboose, how you doing?
Doing good. I was just in LA actually.
Yeah, we missed you. You should have came by the studio.
Yeah, you should have hit us up.
It was a quick little trip, but I'm happy to be here, and there's a lot to talk about today.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. We had I think Josh, you weren't here in the beginning, but we were talking about there's a couple more things we're adding to it. Video Game Awards.
Oh yeah,
Stadia, all this stuff. All right, let's just get on with what I think is the biggest topic, but this may not be for other people. But I think the new Half-Life game
that's huge
being announced.
Yeah.
Just because of what Half-Life's kind of place in video game history is, and one of the most influential games of all time.
And also the giant meme that is
Half-Life 3.
Yeah.
It's the Chinese democracy of video games.
Yeah. And so Half-Life Alyx is set for a March 2020 release, which is fairly soon. However, it is VR only.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it's not Half-Life 3.
No, it is not Half-Life 3.
It's not Half-Life 3 at all.
It takes place in between 1 and 2, as I understand it.
Oh, okay. That's quite interesting.
All
Yes.
right. Okay.
Yes, and then it follows Alyx and her father Eli as they organize a resistance against the Combine. So it's a lot of familiar characters, a lot of familiar settings, but done in VR, and not only in VR, very impressive VR to say the least. Because as someone who's been working on our own VR experience, Twin Peaks, VR is very hard to get the graphics up to that level, just because of how much horsepower it needs to run the double eyes and everything. And so looking at these graphics, I'm like, are you sure this is a VR game? I mean, obviously they're probably pumping the highest NPC with the Valve Index, which is their own. I mean, mainly the main reason why they're making this game on VR is because
the Valve Index.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask. Surely that must be a launch title for when the Valve Index is fully released.
You get it for free.
Oh,
if you have the index, it will immediately be available in your Steam library when it comes out.
That is a selling point for sure.
Yep.
Now you just need the $1,000 computer to run it as well.
Yeah.
So there's a quote from Valve founder Gabe Newell, who's probably swimming in money right now.
Oh yeah.
Good old Gavin.
Yeah. Everyone at Valve is excited to be returning to the world of Half-Life. VR has energized us. We've invested a lot of ourselves in the technology, but we're also game developers at heart, and to be devoting ourselves to a VR game this ambitious is just as exciting. So it's running the Source 2 engine. It's going to be available through Steam. You can play it on not just the Valve's Index. You can still play it on Oculus Rift, Oculus Quest with the link cable, which we'll talk about later.
Which is smart for money making.
HTC, yeah. I mean, they can't limit it to just the Index, because then you have no sales whatsoever.
Exactly.
Not no sales, but very significantly less.
Yeah, I think it's any Steam compatible VR device, I think.
Yeah. But which, is a good amount. I mean, Steam is the number one online store for video games, and I
mean, they have a much larger, correct me if I'm wrong here, comment section, but they have a much larger VR section than their competitor, which would be Spacing Now on the other platform we raged about so much, the other launcher, Epic Games. They don't have much VR options at all.
No.
And Steam has so many VR options for games.
So which one of you guys has actually played Half-Life or Half-Life 2?
I have never played a Half-Life game. I've played Team Fortress and Portal.
You have?
I played Half-Life 2 was the one that I never finished. Half-Life 1, which is
I mean, that's old school.
This is the first time I've ever admitted that to anybody. But I have finished Half-Life 2, Black Mesa, and then Black Mesa, sorry. Yeah. And then pretty much, I mean, well, I owe Half-Life, I owe everything to Half-Life, man. If it wasn't for Half-Life, I wouldn't have Counter-Strike. And I played the shit out of Counter-Strike.
Caboose, you ever play Half-Life?
I've played Half-Life 2, but I haven't, like, I'll be honest, I don't know the full story of these games or much. I just know there's that creepy dude at the end of the Half-Life Alyx trailer.
G-Man.
Yeah,
the G-Man. So I just know about that guy. But besides that, I don't know too much about the Half-Life world. But I do know that these games were, like, huge. And there's a reason that Half-Life 3 became this big myth in the gaming industry.
Yeah, I mean, the first Half-Life kind of revolutionized the first-person shooter and brought, like, the story and the cinematic nature to it.
Because before that, it was very much just, like...
Just shooters.
Doom-inspired kind of games, no story. With this, they added, like, story elements, you walking around. It had a narrative experience to it.
Yeah, like puzzle and narrative as well. And, you know, off of that, a lot of future FPSs kind of followed that path.
And groundbreaking mechanics as well in terms of, like, this sounds silly, but, like, it was groundbreaking at the time, their train system, to have, like, a moving train in the game, you know, that worked.
So I'm wondering, you know, with this third one, in the second one, they had a very revolutionized, like, kind of physics system with one of the weapons.
They had the gravity gun, the gravity gun, the physics gun. That thing was so much fun.
Which apparently was supposed to be, like, it was just the developers goofing off.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. They were, like, they created that.
That thing is all I ever used for the team deathmatch mode. Just whip ass. Pick up toilets and throw them at people.
So now with Alyx, I assume they want to do revolutionary things within the VR space.
Even if they just successfully take the Half-Life experience and put it into VR, that itself would be revolutionary, because we don't really have, to my knowledge, like a fully fleshed out, full length FPS action adventure game available on VR. Like, there's no we get, like, small bursts of it with stuff like Doom VR or things like that, but, like, no full-fledged game that's just like, it's Half-Life, like, you're interacting with the environment, you're solving puzzles, you're doing the gunplay, and you see all that in the trailer. So if they just manage to pull that off in a way that works and controls well, that just that is revolutionary.
Yeah, I mean, most of the ones that you're talking about are, like, I think Asgard's Wrath, but it's not an FPS. It's like more like Skyrim, right? Where it's like a hack and slasher from an FPS viewpoint. There's adventure to it and story and whatnot, but the FPS has been limited to much shorter experiences.
They do have, you can play all of Skyrim in VR.
Yeah.
It's a little clunky.
I would say I hated Skyrim VR personally. It was Doom VR was nice. I preferred the full out VR experience to the Skyrim VR experience for sure.
Yeah. So, you know, this is definitely pretty big news, and, you know, signals. We don't know if it's going to be a trend of more AAA titles. Because remember, Skyrim VR and both Fallout 4 VR, those are just ports of existing games.
Yeah.
We're talking about a game that was specifically developed for VR. I know Valve had mentioned, I don't know if it was earlier this year or end of last year, like, they were going to do a AAA title on VR, you know, in the hopes of, you know, pushing forth the Valve Index.
Right.
A lot of people speculated Half-Life. I speculated. I was like, no, I think they'd save that for, like, regular PC. I thought it was going to be Portal. Just
that would make sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, Portal in VR makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd play the hell out of that.
I'd play it till I throw up and then still play it afterwards. I will throw up.
That would be intense. Yeah.
Creating one of those infinite portals.
Oh God, don't mention it.
And apparently that was something they had discussed too.
Okay.
That they were going to do a Portal for VR, but I think they ended up going with Half-Life, which...
The reason I think this could be exciting is for storytelling elements. I mean, we've seen how storytelling has changed so much through any kind of VR narrative experience. Like, it's going to be nice for me to, like, have my gun walking through a place, hear, like, a small noise behind me, turn around, something's hanging from the ceiling, and I got to blow its brains out, you know? I think that'd be nice. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it's going to be a situation like I said with the original Half-Life, like a pre-Half-Life VR and post-Half-Life VR, you know, in terms of...
Do you think they'll do it as episodes like they did with the Half-Life series?
I don't think so.
I mean, we've seen success with Vader Immortal doing that as well. So
yeah, but I read somewhere that it's going to be comparable to Half-Life Episode 2, where it's going to be 10 to 15 hours of gameplay.
Still pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, and they do seem to... They stress that it's a full game.
Okay, that'll be good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought if they would do Half-Life, it'd be like some sort of 3-hour, 4-hour
right, like
experience.
Because like we were saying, everything that's been made specifically for VR has been a pretty short experience.
Yeah, this is what I call the system seller, right? Like
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like this is your Super Mario World.
Yeah, this is like purely so like you look at that game like I can only get that on VR. I'm gonna go.
Would you say we're finally adjusting to VR? Because I know that
I think so.
I think so too. Because for the most part, everything coming out to VR was always these 20, 30-minute experiences. Because I know roughly after 20, 30 minutes, people's eyes start to get dry, they get a bit nauseous. So like I guess also now maybe we don't have to worry about the FPS issues. You know what I mean? If we got good frames per second, it should be better. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that we as people are like ready?
I think so. I mean, what we saw over the years, what VR was kind of becoming was like, oh, it's a tech demo. You get to show off kind of cool things that you can do in VR. No one was really like, let's tell a narrative. And now, as we've progressed, you're starting to see a lot more of that with VR games. And then obviously this seems to be the biggest VR game yet in terms of just everything we've seen up until this point. And it looks really, really impressive. For the first time, I'm looking at this gameplay and I'm like, no, I don't want to get a VR system to try this out. This looks pretty sweet. The only thing that I wonder is, if this sells well, if people are like, okay, I'm in. The VR stuff is cool. This game is great.
Well, the index has got quite a price on it.
Yeah. Will they get to that Half-Life 3? Will they be like, okay, we had a little fun. We tested some things out. We tried things out. We went back into the Half-Life world for the first time in over a decade. So you guys enjoyed it. Let's get a move on that Half-Life.
It's either going to do that or the exact opposite, where it's like, okay, we did this.
Yeah.
We can wait on another 10, 12 years before Half-Life 3.
15.
Oh my God.
15 years.
Jesus.
Or maybe they're like, wow, this did so well. Let's just keep it on VR.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
True.
Let's keep it on Alex here.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
I think it's a combination of we're adjusting to the technology, and also the technology is becoming both more affordable and also kind of like more comfortable and functional.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Like the Oculus is very surprisingly light. And, I mean, it's like the PS VR is a little heavy, but like I remember trying VR,
For the price, it does the job as well, I think.
Exactly, yeah. They used to be just very heavy and uncomfortable. Your neck would hurt. It's like, I can't do this for longer than 20 or 30 minutes. So as the technology gets better, I think that
That's
how
true.
it physically wears on you is an issue that we're starting to get past, I think.
Yeah, and then the portability of the Oculus Quest and not being tethered and not having a PC. It's weird because you have that one driving the consumer, and then you have the Valve Index with now this Half-Life game pushing the high end, right? I will tell people,
hardcore gamers,
I will say like this is like the IMAX, right? They're like the Dolby Prime cinema, like when you go to the theater. That's the Valve Index, and then the Quest is like it's the regular theater that
watching
you go
Netflix
to.
on your phone.
Yeah, something like that. Where it's the convenience, right?
Yeah.
The convenience, not the best quality, but because of everything.
There's definitely a market there if you think about it. More so nowadays, there are a lot more people out there with high-end computers because there's a lot of people trying to get into esports and streaming. So I think they have a bigger market now with people who can handle like having to have a high-end PC rig. You know what I mean?
So
yeah, no, I agree.
So the question is, okay, the minimum specs are very high. Like minimum.
They are.
Like so.
Yeah.
It is i5 a 7500 and a Ryzen 5 1600.
Yeah, as soon as you got the Ryzen in there, I'm out. I can't even.
You need a minimum of 12 gigs of RAM. Which
Jesus
is
Christ.
Intense.
Yeah. GTX 1060.
Yeah. It's
all of
and it's minimum.
Definitely demanding a lot.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have a pretty decent computer to get this thing running, which could be what either turns people away because they're like, well, my PC's not doing that and I'm not spending $2,000 to get a better one. Or, there could be the idea that, you know what, listen, if that's what it takes to get a VR game that's a 15-hour experience, then that's what it takes. If that means that I got to have a really good PC to play VR games at this capacity, then so be it. So.
And then there's also, do you think it'll come? I know you said it'll support any VR that's supported through Steam, but do you think that includes the Quest? Because I know the Quest has a limited library.
Yeah, right now
the Quest is a lot cheaper than getting a high-end gaming station.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but the thing is you still need a high-end gaming system. The way the Quest Link works, which I'll talk about later, is that it basically all it does is act as the interface.
Okay.
The interface for it, so you still need a high-end PC for it. You just attach the cable. Okay. It just makes the Rift S kind of obsolete.
Ideally in the future we'd want to be streaming these heavy resource games though to VR.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, one last question on this subject before we move on. I'll go to each one of you. Will you be buying this game? And if so, that means purchasing whether it's a high-powered PC and a VR headset. Is Half-Life Alyx worth doing that for? Let's start with you, Josh.
That's a tough cookie considering I really, like, the early days of my gaming life.
Do you already own a high-end PC? Yes or no?
No, it was like 3 years ago.
Okay.
But now it's like every 2 years your high-end stuff is no longer high-end. No, I was disappointed the other day. I paid $60 full price for a PC game, and then just to find out, I had the minimum specs just to find out that the game, I start the game and the game just gives me a screen saying nah. Nah, don't even try.
You don't.
don't even try. So, man, I want to say yes, but obviously, realistically speaking, no. I'm not going to go out there buy myself a high-end gaming computer and the Index. You know what I mean? If it comes out onto the Oculus, then I'll probably just do that instead. I owe it to myself. I do owe my early years of gaming to Valve. I've spent so much time on Half-Life 2 on those death matches, playing Counter-Strike and things like that.
But you can play it on the Oculus.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'd probably just do that instead. So I would not.
But what I'm saying is, will you do that? Will you purchase, let's say, a brand new PC? Since you
no, I will not. I will not purchase a brand new PC just for this game.
Okay. If your computer works, would you buy, let's say, an Oculus Quest, which you probably want anyways, right?
Yeah, I do.
And then try it to see if it works.
Honestly speaking, if my PC
hits the minimum,
was already that point, then yeah, it's. I mean, if you're thinking about it, it's the difference between either spending $1,600 or spending like an extra $400 if you already have the rig.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that bad of an idea.
Yeah. Tom?
I would need to I would need to spend $2,000.
Okay, so you'd have to buy the system, right? Like probably $1,000 for a decent,
like maybe
$1,200. More like $1,200 to get a decent rig.
And then a VR system.
Yeah, and then the VR system on top of it. I need a decent rig. I've only had gaming laptops, and those,
they're good for like a year. But that's about it.
Yeah, and then you can't upgrade them, so it's
very limited lifetime on those.
So for me, no, but only because the entry point is prohibitive. It's cost prohibitive. I can't afford to.
Caboose.
So my rig can run it.
Okay.
Nice.
I just need the Oculus, and I think for me, I'd have to wait on a game like this. I'd have to wait and see what people think. I don't usually let that be the factor. I don't usually let a review influence my opinion. But if the reviews come out and there are plenty of people raving about it, then I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I need to give this a go. If the reviews come out and people are like, yeah, it's okay, or it's more on the negative side, then I'll be like, all right, I probably just got to hold off, because it is a big investment to get an Oculus, and there aren't too many VR games that I would be interested in besides this one. Not to say that there aren't any besides this one. There are a couple of others that I wouldn't mind trying out, but there isn't like a massive library of games that I'd be looking forward to getting if I bought myself an Oculus or just any sort of VR kit. So it'd be a big investment, and I'd need to justify it in some way. And my justification would be, if there's some high praise for this game, then all right, I got to give this a go.
Yeah, that's true. There isn't really a killer app for Oculus yet. This is probably going to be it, right?
Right.
Well, Oculus
or VR in general. I mean,
Beat Saber is a pretty big hit. That's the one that they always point to.
They're installing they're installing Beat Saber points all across the world. Like like every VR arcade it's Beat Saber only.
It's the new Rock Band Guitar Hero.
I almost look at it as the new Dance Dance Revolution. Like most VR arcades are going to have Beat Saber for you.
The funny thing is, it works better on the cheaper Oculus Quest than it does on because there's no tether.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
And so they're releasing, it's not out yet, and Jack was going crazy about it at Oculus Connect because he got to play it.
Oh, yeah, he told me.
Because that one doesn't have a tether, they have it.
The hand tracking, right?
Well, no, not the hand tracking. You can do the movements like on the side, like and behind. Because when you're tethered, they don't want you to do that because you're gonna get tangled up.
Right.
And so that freedom of movement makes that like the perfect game for that system.
Yeah.
The Vader Immortal games are pretty good. Episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
Now
VR chat's doing great as well. I mean, that's not really a game, but also doing very well.
Yeah.
So I would go see. The thing is, my PC is not up to snuff for this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I would do is probably buy an Oculus Quest and use the link as a pass-through to play the game, and then play the game like probably here at the office.
One of the computers. Yeah,
one of the higher-end computers. I do want to get a Quest though, because I feel like that is, even though it's not the most high-powered system, it's the way to go in terms of VR and I guess people's being open to VR. So
I'm due for an upgrade on my computer. I need to get more RAM and that Ryzen 5, man.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the Video Game Awards nominations that got announced earlier. It's very interesting. So let me read them off, the main few, and then let's talk about it. So Game of the Year, we've got Control, Death Stranding, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, The Outer Worlds. Best Game Direction, we have Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Outer Worlds. So basically everything except for Super Smash Bros. On that one. Best Narrative, we got A Plague Tale: Innocence. Interesting. Which you played, Caboose.
I mean, that's actually that's a good one.
Control, Death Stranding, Disco Elysium, which I did not play, The Outer Worlds. We have, let's see here, gonna skip to, Best Performance. We have Ashley Birch as Pavarotti Holcomb in The Outer Worlds.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Courtney Hope as Jesse Faden in Control. Laura Bailey as Kate Diaz in Gears 5. Mads Mikkelsen as Cliff in Death Stranding.
Okay.
Matthew Porretta as Dr. Casper Darling in Control. Norman Reedus as Sam Porter Bridges in Death Stranding. Best ongoing game, obviously, we have Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy, 14?
Yeah, great MMO.
Fortnite, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. Independent game, Baba Is You, Disco Elysium, Katana Zero, Outer Wilds, and Untitled Goose Game.
I saw that. I saw that. Yeah.
Okay. Best VR game: Asgard's Wrath, Blood and Truth, Beat Saber, No Man's Sky, Trover Saves the Universe.
Which we got some news on later as well.
Yeah. Okay. There's a bunch of others, but let's.
You're not going to list out the best fighting game. Well, there's a bit of a talk about the nominations for the best fighting game of the year.
Look at the fighting game. We got Dead or Alive 6, Jump Force.
Jump Force. Sorry, that's all I wanted.
Mortal Kombat 11, Samurai Showdown, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah, a lot of people were complaining as to why Jump Force
made it.
Yeah, they were like, why? Well, first of all, it sold more copies than any of the other games that were listed there, so that might be a purpose. I don't know. I think Jump Force.
Mortal Kombat. Did it sell more than Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, it outsold Mortal Kombat. You can look that up right now.
Seriously?
Hold on. It outsold Mortal Kombat this year.
That's crazy.
I mean,
That's surprising.
Yeah, I'm gonna look this up.
I looked that up a couple days ago. Yeah,
Caboose is crushed right now.
He's like, what, really?
My whole world is crashing down.
Yeah,
now.
I voted for that the day it was announced. I voted for Jump Force. I was like, let's go. So I want them to make a second game when the new generation comes out.
Yeah. So the actual award ceremony is going to be on December 12th, which is a Thursday, from Microsoft Theater here in Los Angeles. I know we're trying to go, but we'll see what happens.
What do you guys think for Game of the Year?
I mean,
personally, I don't feel like any game is really deserving of that title this year.
You know what game is deserving?
What?
Devil May Cry 5. And it's not even nominated.
Oh, that's sad.
I'm going to go into rant mode real quick about the Game Awards, because this year I am now drawing a line. I was annoyed when Overwatch won Game of the Year that year, when Uncharted 4 was nominated. Okay? I've been annoyed very slightly about the Game Awards and just the overall format of how they do it every year, but I've just bit my tongue about it because they reveal some cool stuff. They overall have a pretty decent show, and Jeff Keighley's a great guy. But I don't know if anyone remember this, but last week there was a really cool Star Wars game that came out, and it came out in the year of 2019. And the Game Awards of the year of 2019 cannot include Star Wars in any of the nominations, because the board of people that nominate the games have to request extra time to play Star Wars in order to have the ability to provide a vote for it in the Game Awards. That is absurd.
Just make an intern play it or something. Come on.
And the fact that Smash Brothers that had the same fate last year and is now nominated for a bunch of awards in 2019's year of games when it came out in 2018 is ridiculous. And I'll tell you what, although some people might disagree with me about this, I think the fan voting thing has got to go. It is way too easily exploitable, and people out there who maybe want one game to win that they maybe didn't even play can just vote for it 100 times. Yeah, they can just vote for it 100 times, and then that gives it a better chance of winning, and they maybe didn't even play the game. I think the Game Awards need to be held up to the standard of being the Oscars for video games. And in that, it needs to take place in the next year to allow any game that comes out maybe towards the end of the year still be in contention. And I think they need to get rid of the fan voting, because that's just ridiculous to me, and it's way too easily exploitable. And then just need to leave it up to a board of people, to a board of good gaming journalists who play all these games, 100% them, or at least as close as you can, play everything the game has to offer, and then let the voting process be done through that. When I look at this, when I see Smash Brothers, a 2018 game listed for Game of the Year 2019, it just it makes me so angry, especially when Star Wars came out a week ago and pretty much can't be considered.
But if you look at the Oscars, it's almost like a similar thing with when they have the Oscars and the time frame for as to the nominations.
But I mean, they do it the next year, though.
Yeah, exactly. as long as it screens by the end of December of the previous year.
Oh, okay, so I always thought January still counted.
No.
Never mind.
You'll get some movies that'll have limited release in
they'll
December,
purposely
just so they can
make
and then they'll have a wide release in January.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
So
I think that's what they got to do. It's getting too ridiculous now. And then especially, you look at best fighting game. For me, Mortal Kombat 11 should be a lock. But now there's a wild card in there with Smash Brothers. And Smash Brothers might win, but it's so undeserving because it came out in 2018 and it should have just been nominated in 2018. But obviously it couldn't because of the way that they placed the show. And I mean, maybe that's not up to them. Maybe they can't make those decisions. They have whatever time they have at the Microsoft Theater for December. But I don't know. For me, it frustrates me a lot to see some things like that and the way that they're handled with the Game Awards, because Star Wars deserves to be nominated. And let's say, it's not in contention for this year, but it's in contention for next year. Then it's going up against heavy hitters like The Last of Us Part 2 and Cyberpunk. It stands no chance. No way. So it's just I don't know. Rant over, but it's very frustrating.
So I mean, we're probably most likely going to see
Caboose doesn't get invited.
Jedi Fallen Order for Game of the Year next year. That's look, this year, I don't quite agree with Josh, but at the same time, it's not the same as last year, which we had Red Dead Redemption 2 and God of War, and next year with Cyberpunk 2077 and Last of Us Part 2. This is not an off year, because there's actually 3 games that I really like that I would put up as my favorite game of the year, and I'll go through mine and you guys go through yours. So Control, which is already up there. I'm a big fan of Remedy games. And then The Outer Worlds, and then obviously Jedi Fallen Order, which did not qualify. Let's start with you, Josh. What are your favorite games of the year? Or what do you think would you put up there for game of the year?
Like here's the thing, from the games that I've played myself, the game that I enjoyed the most this year the game that I played the most. It's kind of between Jump Force and Outer Worlds, but as amazing and as beautiful as Outer Worlds is, I don't think it deserves Game of the Year. I think it deserves a award. I don't know what, but probably not Game of the Year. It's fun, but it's not like a masterpiece when you look at like God of War, Red Dead Redemption from the previous years. Like I would say, even though I did play some Death Stranding, even though I didn't enjoy it, I would say that even that for me would be more of a contender of Game of the Year rather than Outer Worlds. And yes, the one is more of a game than the other, but I don't know. The Outer Worlds was just missing that extra little bit of polish that I think it needed to be Game of the Year. But other than that, I really wish I played Devil May Cry 5, because that'd probably be up there as well.
So,
I mean, I would put Borderlands 3 in there.
Okay.
I agree.
I've spent like 120 hours on that game.
Yeah.
I would probably put Devil May Cry on there. Death Stranding can go the hell away. I hated that game. It's not a game. It's not a game.
Walking
it's
simulator.
A walking simulator.
Damn.
Anything else you played this year that you would qualify game?
That's not on the list already, or
or do you agree with any of the ones on the list?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with.
Surprised to see Resident Evil 2 up there.
I was going to ask about that. Do you guys think remake should be eligible?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think, well,
if it's from the ground
everyone
up.
I've spoken to, because
it is from the ground up.
Yeah, I was of the same opinion. Like, it's a remake? Can you really consider it? But everyone I've spoken to who's played it and beaten it has said, like, yes, it's technically the outline of Resident Evil 2, but it's like pretty much a brand new game, and it seems that way. So I think it's fair. I'll give that one a pass, and I heard it is very, very good.
It is, yeah. I've beaten all the scenarios and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
very good.
that I understand. That I think is fair.
Was the new Gears nominated?
No,
it was not.
No, I enjoyed the new Gears.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people said it was a revival for the franchise.
I was higher Metacritic score than Death Stranding.
I enjoyed it the most out of all of the games I've played before for Gears.
Statistically, Sekiro should be the one that wins Game of the Year here. It is the highest rated game on Metacritic. It's got let me see. I think it's got over a 90 on so it's got a 90 on the dot on Metacritic. So
the fans are happy.
Game.
Yeah, the fans are very happy with that.
So I'd say it makes sense that Sekiro would win, but obviously with fan voting involved, it's probably going to be Death Stranding that wins.
How?
That's what I
guarantee.
Fans are allowed to vote.
With fan voting involved. I think with fan voting involved, we're looking at. Don't want to say it, but possibly even Smash Bros. Just because of the following.
Yeah.
Just because of the mass amount of people who are going to vote in for that.
Even with fan voting, I think, like we were talking about before we started recording, that the critical response to Death Stranding has been surprising. So
a lot of European journalists love it for some reason.
I don't get it. Like, I read the IGN review where like the review, not the IGN review, the Game Informer review, where it literally ends with being like he says like, I didn't know why I kept playing. Maybe I was like Sam, I was just going on for some reason, but the game really doesn't give me much of a reason to keep playing, and it really doesn't add up to much of a reward in the end. 7 out of 10. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know if I like the game or not. 8 out of 10.
Yeah. Right. It wasn't really very rewarding.
I don't want to piss off Kojima. 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
So you guys, Caboose, you said Devil May Cry. Anything else on your list of what you would consider Game of the Year? Anything on here or not? I
mean, Sekiro, I think is really good, so that should be up there. Deserves to be up there. I've heard a lot of praise for Control and Outer Worlds.
Yeah, Control is great.
I'm happy that those games got the nominations. But like I said, for me, like, it's just without a doubt Devil May Cry 5 should have been at least nominated, and for me is right now my game of the year. And then obviously, who knows what could have happened if you throw Star Wars into the mix. But just looking at the nominations, just off of my best guess, Death Stranding will win because of the fan voting. But Josh, you do make a good point about Smash Brothers having some contention there.
And I'd also like to point out I've never ever played Smash Brothers in my entire life. I just know that fan base very well.
It's fun.
Oh yeah,
it's a fun game.
It's one of those things where because I never played it as a kid, like Nintendo wasn't too popular in South Africa. Like whenever I go over to a friend's house, they're playing Smash. They're like, "Yeah, you want to do it?" I'm like, "How? I don't know the buttons." And then there's no time to learn. They throw you in the deep end.
Yeah. That's true. If you have no connection whatsoever to these characters, it's probably pretty tough to get into. It's like It's like anytime I get like a Fire Emblem character in Smash Brothers, I'm like, I don't know what this person is. I don't know this guy.
But all the other categories, everything is looking pretty good. I mean, Josh, you will disagree with me, but Jump Force wasn't very highly praised. I'm surprised it made that list of best fighting games. Maybe it was just because there weren't a lot.
It's had amazing DLC over the course of the year as well.
It sold well, and people still play it, so that's fair. I'm not complaining. And everything else, like most of the other categories, things are fitting. Games that are nominated there work to be nominated. Like, I agree with their nomination. It's just when it comes to Game of the Year, no Devil May Cry 5, just that's crazy for me. Especially like if I look really quick on Metacritic, Devil May Cry 5 it's one of the highest reviewed games of the year. Yeah, an 88 on Metacritic, whereas Death Stranding is sitting at an 83. So that just blows my mind.
I can feel the anger all the way over here in Southern California.
It's radiating.
Well, what's interesting is there's no real front runner for this year, where last year was a 2-horse race, right?
Yeah.
It was Red Dead Redemption 2 and God of War. It's one of those two games. This year is like kind of a toss
up in the air. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So
that's going back to my first statement. Like, I don't really think any game deserves Game of the Year this year. Like, there were some amazing games, but nothing that was, I'd say, a masterpiece.
There's my personal bias is I've spent the most time on Borderlands 3, but you're right. There's like no one game that I played this year was like, this is clearly the one.
I mean, last year 2 of the games up for were 10 out of 10s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like God of War was a 10 out of 10. The reviews for that I don't think, have we had any 10s come out this year? Any 10 out of 10s?
Depends on where it's reviewed.
Like the IGN 10 out of 10 score?
GameSpot gave Death Stranding a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, there's some places that gave Death Stranding 10 out of 10. So,
my God.
I would have put Spider-Man on that list last year, too.
You know what? Yeah, Spider-Man was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So you have something, let's say Spider-Man is like third runner-up or whatever. Or how do they do it? First runner, second runner-up, right?
Third place.
Yeah. That is probably, if it came out this year, would beat all of the ones.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Although, I don't know.
You know what I really want to see in the future is I want to see a Flop of the Year award. I want to see, like
the Razzies, but for video games.
Yeah, like, oh man, that'd be fantastic.
What the hell is Fallout 76?
Yeah,
I was just trying to remember the name right here.
That's nominated for sure. Right
Every
there,
category.
Sweeps them.
Anthem. Yeah.
Oof. Yeah. Was that this year?
That was this year.
It was supposed to be a AAA title that.
Felt like that game came out 100 years ago.
Yeah. He spent, I think, 6 months actually making that game, which is horrendous.
All right, so the next thing I want to talk about, and we mentioned it in the last one, was Jedi Fallen Order. Like, I know you've played a good amount of it.
Yeah, I'm digging it.
Have you played it yet?
I'm probably only picking it up at the end of the month, after rent and everything.
And then Caboose is going to be picking it up, but soon. So
it's good.
Yeah, it's good.
I've heard no bad things.
It's fun.
That is actually, that's the word I've heard the most from anybody who's played the game.
It's just fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And I like that. Like, you get so many great games out there that aren't fun, but they're great games because they're suspenseful, they're action. I'm like, I want the fun, man.
Yeah.
I want to sit down and not be stressed out for 2 hours. I'm like, that's a different type of enjoyment.
There's some stress going on in Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, but not the stress you
get.
It's
more of the challenge of like
not like Dark Souls stress where you're sitting there sweating bricks,
It's got like some Souls-light elements to it, but like I'm never like.
I think most games are going that way for combat now, for the whole third-person hack and slash type thing.
Yeah,
you got to have that dodge, evade, Souls kind of aspect. Yeah,
and there's a parry element, and the enemies they're playing up the sword plays. The enemies have a guard meter now. It's just.
Do you have a stamina bar?
You do, yeah.
Yeah, that is very Soulsy, yeah.
And then you have a force meter as well,
Okay.
that you can only use X amount of.
It's like a mix between Uncharted and Souls and Uncharted and Souls.
That's obviously, that sounds about right there, yeah.
All the traversals and the puzzle solving are very Uncharted, and they're fun. It's just a freaking fun game. You'd be a Jedi, man.
I can't wait.
All right. Let's move on to the next one. Vader Immortal Episode 3. That just came out. I got to play it actually a week early. And it's a pretty good conclusion. I would say the beginning of it, without any spoilers, you start off the story. The first thing you do kind of gets a little repetitive. You just kind of are flying and shooting some people, It gets a little repetitive, but then it kind of picks up later on and finishes the story. So it comes as like three episodes, Each one's about, I'd say 45 minutes long. So you're talking about all 3 episodes, like a 2 hour, 2 to 2.5 hour experience.
Like a movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of straddles that line between a game and like a cinematic experience, right? Like you're
interactive.
Yeah, it's not a
very almost.
Yeah, it's not a very difficult game. So you're not like trying to they do have the dojo, which that's where the challenge comes in because that's every level like they increase.
I find that tricky. The dojo is tricky. Yeah.
But in terms of the narrative experience, it's like you're playing it, but you're also watching it and experiencing it, and I find that very intriguing. And I would love to see what the numbers are on Vader Immortal because we know Beat Saber is like the number one sales request. I'm just wondering where Vader Immortal falls on that list because I would assume that it's number 2, but who knows?
I definitely see it in the top 3. Yeah, because I think of I know Super Hot is still played endlessly, which
I love Super Hot.
It's such a good VR game.
But I mean that one benefits from VR and the Quest because the freedom of movement. Like you suddenly, it just feels different.
When I first I played Super Hot on, I think I first played it on the PSVR. I was like, I played Super Hot when it came out on PC, and like I remember as an indie game, it tripped me out because there was this moment where you're seeing yourself play the game, and that tripped me out playing on PC. So when I played on VR and I saw myself sitting there in VR, I was like, whoa.
It's one of those things where a game suddenly
once I had the Quest
goes to another level.
You can just put your hand behind your head and shoot like that if you wanted to.
I have it on PSVR. I wish I had a Quest for it because
it's so nice.
It's pretty.
You can always we have a Quest here and you can test it out. It's just
fun.
It's just like I said with Beat Saber, with Super Hot, those are the ones that are able to take advantage of what VR actually is.
Yeah.
Versus just porting the game over to VR.
Exactly. Which is I guess why most studios are pushing for FPS games that I know that they haven't said it, but Cyberpunk definitely yes, they say they're going first person for immersion and that's the storytelling that they want to do, but they can't lie to me and say that part of that isn't because they don't want to port it to VR one day.
That's true. I could see them totally porting that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
But then you have
same with Outer Worlds. I can see them porting that easily.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
They're going to do Respawn's doing a Medal of Honor game.
Yeah,
and we tested it at Oculus Connect, and
Jack said he had a great time rolling the grenades on the ground.
But I mean, that's built from the ground up to be in VR, much like how Half-Life Alyx is going to be. So the other thing too is now if you buy a Quest, they're going to give you Vader Immortal Episode 1, 2, and 3 for free.
Okay,
that's a good selling point for my dad would buy that. I've been trying to get my dad into VR forever because he's not a gamer. He's not really caught up to anything, but I feel like my dad would love VR. And he loves Star Wars.
Well, you know what you could do. One, if he loves Star Wars, that's definitely a good entry. But two, there's a lot of things in VR, you can go watch
traveling as well. Yeah,
traveling, concerts, sports.
He loves he loves painting. I want to get him tilt brush. I think he'd have a great time.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different applications other than just games.
Yeah, for sure.
VR. And then also I mentioned before the Quest Link cable, which is significant because it basically renders the Rift S kind of useless.
Yeah.
Because all it does is it attaches to a computer. Now you can play any Rift S game. You can play any Steam game and then when you unplug it, now you have a portable system. So there's kind of the only point that you would have for, let's say, a Rift S is that you really find the extra weight for the Quest, because everything on the Quest has to be built in there.
Yeah.
You find that cumbersome, and you just can't. You want a lighter thing on your head.
True. Yeah.
To move around in. That's the only reason. But I just don't see the point now in buying. They've eliminated the reason. Now the whole library of the Rift is available on the Quest with a simple cable.
It makes sense. It's a smart business move as well.
Yeah.
I guess it's the difference between getting the Switch and getting like the Switch Lite that can't dock.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I'm not sure about the Switch Lite.
I wouldn't buy one. No.
I would get the Switch Lite for I was thinking about getting the Switch Lite the other day, because I was like, most of the games I'm going to play don't really involve me using the rumble functions or having to if I'm playing Mario Party, I'm usually at a friend's place. But when it comes to like a lot of the indie games for $100 less, I might do it.
Yeah.
Like I can play Skyrim on the Switch for $100 less. I don't need to detach the controllers. But I mean, once again, like Dennis said, what does it switch to?
Yeah.
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 You can play Witcher 3 soon, right?
True. Yeah,
you can.
What else? Outer Worlds they're porting over to Switch.
And Trover.
We
will talk about.
Yeah, so why don't we just talk about that real quick? It's not a big deal. I just mentioned it here because Trover says the Universe is one of the PSVR games.
I played it, loved it.
Oh, yeah.
It was fun.
If you love the Rick and Morty humor.
You like Justin Roiland?
It's just Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it is. It's reskinned Rick and Morty. Even the voice, Justin Roiland does the voices. That there's basically a Morty voice and a Rick voice.
And a Rick voice, yeah.
The only difference is that now Morty voice is the main character, and then Rick is like the side character,
the helper. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I played the game first without VR, just for fun, because I played the game in PSVR, but I borrowed it from my friend. So I was so happy about the game. I was like, I can't wait until I get the VR headset. I want to hear the funniness now. So I played through it once without VR and played through it once with VR, and it's fun either way. So it makes sense to me for them to port it to. Because obviously, for anybody wondering right now why was it on the Xbox, it's because the Xbox doesn't have VR support.
Yeah.
But the game is just as fun without VR, man. Yeah.
It's not really. The VR adds like a layer of fun to it, but it's not like the mechanics of the game don't depend on VR.
Exactly. You use a controller. So
VR helps in the sense of the spatial dimension when you're doing the platforming.
That can get a little tricky, I'll be honest. When you're like walking your dude, because for anybody who doesn't know, you're controlling other people in front of you, and you're kind of set to this.
It's like a first-person, third-person God mode.
Yeah,
right. You're like MODOK in a chair.
Yeah,
like an epic lazy boy,
commanding Trover to do things for you.
Yeah.
So getting him to like do the puzzle jumping without VR is a little tricky. I will admit to that, because the depth is a bit off.
Yeah. But you don't have to. You don't have to have VR to enjoy the game.
No.
So that is coming out. We were talking about Switch. Pokemon Sword and Shield, fastest selling Nintendo Switch game ever, has sold over 6 million units in its first week, surpassing Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Oh, they had great marketing to start with. Like, they were marketing the crap out of that game since they announced it. So, and then also, I think the Pokemon fans are a very dedicated fan base as well.
Yeah, and they long ago figured out the trick of making two games.
Right.
So the fans will buy both of them.
Essentially the same game, but two different. I like that. Sneaky.
Yeah, they've been doing it for years.
Oh man, I think there was a bit of a lashback a while ago when someone found out that Game Freak has essentially just been they've been using the exact same frame for the video game, if you will, which makes sense if you think about it. But like the actual Pokemon themselves, like they've just been rehashing like old frames and just retexturing them, and apparently, which is not a big deal. A lot of studios do that, but apparently years ago, Game Freak specifically said no. Every single game is built from the ground up. We do not reuse resources, and essentially now someone did like a bit of data mining, and they were like, "Hold on, you're lying." But also, like, who cares, man? They brought you the game.
Yeah,
I don't care if you reuse it.
And Pokemon is texture, not the pinnacle of graphical quality.
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, but I could see being a fan, like a real diehard Pokemon fan, and being a little disappointed in that.
I think
like, well, I
for
recognize
them
this.
saying, "Oh no, we built this all from the ground up. We didn't reuse anything." Then like if
and
they
then someone
hadn't
finding
said
out,
that, then the controversy would still be there.
Yeah, granted, it was years ago, but still
as malicious. Whereas with them, they pretty much lied. It just it makes people a lot more angry when they find out, like, hey, no, you guys did reuse a bunch of stuff. Don't try and trick us. So that was kind of unfortunate. But I mean, doesn't look like all that controversy really made a difference.
Yeah, they already sold their 6 million units.
The game's selling like crazy. So
didn't seem to hurt it. Apparently, with the backlash, it just. I liken it to, remember there was all that quote unquote controversy over Brie Larson and Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna boycott
and the quote unquote controversy of Red Dead, or not Red Dead. What was it that was coming to Epic Games? Borderlands 3 going to Epic Games,
and then nothing.
Like all that stuff. People on the internet, especially when it comes to like the negative groups, don't realize that they're in a bit of a bubble, and they could yell all they want, but at the end of the day, there are millions of people out there who do not know
and do not care.
Don't care. It's like, no, I'm gonna see the movie.
There's people like me who know and just don't care.
Right. Like, it's like, all right, I'm gonna like
exactly.
Like, I know about crunch time, but I was still like, fuck, I'm gonna buy Red Dead. Oh, sorry, I don't actually swear on this podcast.
Yeah, we do. We do.
We were long past that point.
Let's see here. Xbox Scarlet, the Xbox head Phil Spencer, he's saying that Microsoft is going to do Play Anywhere, so you can play Xbox One, Xbox Scarlet, which still don't know what the final name is going to be, and then Windows PC platforms. I mean, this is good because it's like doing cross-play, cross-saves.
They kind of did that before with Xbox One and Windows, right? So it's just like a natural extension.
And adding another one. But it's nice because it's like, okay, if I buy a game, hypothetically, even though I am going to buy whatever the next Xbox is on day one, but hypothetically, I don't want to buy it on day one, and I still have my Xbox One, I buy it. I know when I eventually upgrade,
it'll be on the,
and I don't have to pay another price.
I think PlayStation's doing the same thing where PS5 is compatible with PS4.
Yeah, they're doing backwards compatibility with They said they're aiming for everything, backwards compatibility with everything.
That would be nice.
I don't know about PS1 games, but we'll see.
Like the tech is there, and it's just like, just do it.
Like do it. There's
give
no
me
reason
the
not
opportunity to play the other games on the newer console, because why the hell not?
And cross saves too, because
it just, if you have the tech, if you can do it, if it's possible.
Give me the option. A lot of those games specifically, like I have 296 games on PlayStation. Most of those I get from the PS Plus service, which is the 2 free games per month. So just over years, those have piled up. But it's one of those things where I still want to see that library on my PS5.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I mean,
100%.
A lot of those are PS4 dependent, but most of them are like cross-platform. They work on the PSP, they work on the PS3. They may as well work on the PS5, right?
Yeah, there's no reason not to.
Especially for the smaller indie games. So I think it's a smart choice.
Yeah, and I remember I played the Tomb Raider reboot on the Xbox 360, and I got a good, more than halfway through the game, and then obviously the next Xbox came out, and so I didn't touch the 360, and then they had the game for free on Xbox Gold, then I downloaded it, but I couldn't start off
from where you were,
where I was, which was quite annoying.
That is something I don't like about the Outer Worlds, which for a brand new game, why they don't have cloud saving is, I don't know. Why most games don't come out with cloud saving, I don't know. Like, surely it can't be that difficult.
I think we saw with the Fortnite cross-platform, there are some holdouts. I think Sony's like a
probably
pretty big guilty party in being a holdout.
100%.
Or just, just cloud saving in general. Like I know I'm one of the very few, but there are 2 PlayStations in my house. So like there's one in my room and one in the living room. And ideally, like I love Persona 5. Thank you, Persona 5, for doing this. I can play the same game in my room. Oh, the living room's free. I can move to the living room and carry on right where I was.
You're not able to. I thought. You're not able to download your save from the PS Plus cloud?
Not for like games like Outer World, as far as I'm aware. I've tried.
I haven't tried it on Outer World.
I know I can do it with a USB, but that's just such a pain. Like,
right, but then
what's the point?
Well, actually, you can copy it, right?
It takes the ease out of it, you know?
Yeah.
It takes the whole.
But is that a PS4 thing? Because I think with Outer Worlds I've been able to play.
Were you able? You're and same like switch from Xbox to Xbox and have the same save?
I think so, because I have Xbox here and
without having to manually. Because if that's so, then I am really upset at Sony.
Let me double check. I mean, I could be wrong, because I do remember I played one game where I'm like, hey, how come I'm starting here? But I'm not 100% sure that was Outer Worlds or not.
I was never too bothered about cloud saving until I started playing games that do have cloud saving, and it was difficult for me to go back.
Yeah.
Like I was like,
when you see like what's possible, you're like, oh god, now I got to go back to the old stuff. No way.
Right. Yeah.
And it's good. It's handy for RPGs, you know, like first person shooters. I don't care. Like multiplayer games, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Plus, backwards compatibility is just cool. When they announced it for Xbox One, and like over the years they've added some of these really cool games or some of the more fun games that were available on the 360 onto the Xbox One. It just like it brings things back. You know, it's a nice bit of nostalgia in the best way possible. Like I remember when they added Red Dead Redemption 1 as part of the backwards compatibility library for Xbox One, the sales for the first Red Dead Redemption game went up 9,000%.
Oh yeah,
because of that, you know. So if I don't know why PlayStation didn't really capitalize on that too big with the PlayStation 4. Not that they really needed to. It's not like there was a lot of competition there.
They're doing their PS Now service.
It just feels
which it has gotten better. I will say it's gotten better.
It's hit or miss.
Yeah.
It's gotten better, but it still feels like it's got a bit of a ways to go. And
they did change it up. They did change it up in the case of where you can use it on your computer as well now, which is nice. Like if you're playing for PlayStation Now, you can play your PlayStation games on your computer, streaming them through your laptop.
And the price went down too, which is nice.
What is it?
They had to match Stadia. They had to match and Game Pass. It used to be $20 a month, and now it's $10 a month.
Yeah.
I used to pay the $20 a month.
It was absurd how expensive that service was.
Well, there was no competitors at the time.
Yeah, that's true. They were the only ones streaming games.
Yeah, I mean, and Game Pass. I finally. Oh, by the way, Caboose, I finally tried out Xbox Game Pass. It is amazing. I don't know why. For some reason, I was convinced I could stream games, but I couldn't. So that was a bit of a bummer there. But oh well, we'll get there.
They added Rage 2 just recently. Like the bang for your buck with Game Pass is the single best deal in gaming right now.
Outer Worlds is on there.
Nobody can change my mind.
Outer Worlds, Gears 5.
A lot of the Xbox-owned companies.
Even some of the older Fallout games.
Yeah.
Fallout 4.
Yeah, I think I read like every Xbox
company is going to be
title
on there,
releases on Game Pass.
Yeah. Because they want to get
looks
people
like that
hooked.
is the plan. Which imagine a world when Halo Infinite comes out. If that's going to be on Game Pass, that would be insane.
I mean, if you go do it right now, for anybody who hasn't done it yet, I think you can go and do a deal right now where you pay $1 for the first 3 months, which is insane. It's either $1 a month for the first 3 months, or it's $1 for the first 3 months, which is insane.
Either way,
and then
crazy.
And then you get 6 months of Spotify. You get six months of Spotify Premium with that for free, and you also get 2 months of EA access for free with that. It's a pretty good deal.
If you own an Xbox One, you are not capitalizing on this deal.
That's silly.
I'm not sure if I would like to be associated with you in any way, shape, or form. Okay, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. 3 months for $1 or $1 a month. Either way, that's $3.
Yeah.
For the crazy library you get on Game Pass, plus Spotify, plus EA access, or what is it? Yeah,
it's EA access.
You get all that stuff. Like, oh my god, that is deal of the century. I'm telling you, that is. Oh man, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, using Xbox Game Pass, I think now I've always been a PlayStation guy, but if with Xbox Game Pass looking that good, I'm probably going to get the next Xbox instead of the next PlayStation.
Yeah, we'll see. But
I'll probably get them both.
And then the exclusive comes out on PS. I mean, my last 2 cycles have been Xbox first.
Spider-Man 2 comes out.
And then Xbox first, and then I buy the PlayStation later at the end of the cycle so I can play the exclusives.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which are now all discounted. So.
Yeah,
not a bad
plan.
But speaking of Game Pass and streaming and whatnot, Google Stadia.
Yeah.
Not doing so hot now.
I haven't tried it, but looking at like the options for the payment plans and the options like that is really not a bad idea. So I don't know why it's not looking too good right now. Is it their sales that aren't looking too good?
No, it's the performance,
the actual technology of it.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah. Because I was about to say the price was pretty good, then like all the things that were coming out, like Red Dead Redemption 2 on launch. Like all those things are looking pretty good. But I guess once again, for a streaming service, if you can't stream it, then what are you paying for?
Exactly.
Yeah. So everything that I've seen, a lot of the main complaints are there's latency issues. Some people have said, okay, the latency is not so bad, all things considered. But I've seen some gameplay of somebody who was like, this is pretty much my experience with Stadia, and they'd be pressing the space bar to jump in a game, and then almost a full second later, their character then jumps in the game.
Woof.
So there were some latency issues I was hearing, a lot of stuttering when you're playing games, a lot of like quick little freezes in the frames.
But so I wonder how many people. I wonder how many people are signing up for this service not having a suitable internet connection for it. I'd imagine there's got to be a good handful of people who are like, oh, I'm going to get Google Stadia, without realizing that they have like a 5 megabyte line that's not going to be able to run it at all, But
then that also becomes the problem is how many people are actually getting it, because one of the other complaints I heard was somebody got Destiny 2 and they could barely find a match.
There's nobody in it.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
that sucks.
There's a lot of issues. It's a tough launch. It's just... although I can't give it a direct comparison to something like VR, because I think VR, when it came out of the floodgates, it was still pretty cool. But I compare it in the sense that VR has come a long way, and Stadia probably still, or just the idea behind Stadia, streaming games and everything, probably still got a couple of years to go. We'll see how xCloud does and how that's going to perform. But it just looks like the tech is not fully there. It's a really good idea, and I'm sure couple of years down the line, maybe 10 years down the line, we'll see gaming sort of shift in this direction. But right now, it just doesn't look like it's up to snuff.
Well, the thing with the xCloud, and I forgot what the name of the PlayStation version is.
PS Now.
PS Now. Is that it's a transitional one, right?
You can still play your actual, which is why it's smart. So if you don't have internet connection, your internet gets shut off, you can still play your PlayStation.
Yes, or
with the Stadia, you got nothing.
Exactly. So there's something to fall back on. If like, okay, this isn't working properly, fine, I'll go play it on my console at home.
Or you can download it instead of stream it.
It's like, okay, if I can't play it on my phone in like a train that's going 80 miles per hour, fine. But
I'll accept that.
Yeah, but if it's like Google Stadia is like the only thing, and you're at home, and you can't play, like the lag issues are happening or whatnot.
That sucks. Yeah, I literally was using PS Now the past 2 months, ever since it was cheaper to play a couple of PS3 games I wanted to play, and I experienced zero lag, even with my roommate being in the room next door, like watching Netflix or HBO or whatever. Like minute lag I've noticed. You know what I mean? Which would kill me in an FPS game, but it's like that was because my roommate was streaming. You know what I mean? He was watching a movie at that time. But it's like I've seen zero hassles with that. So for Google Stadia, it being Google to have problems is a little worrying. It makes me worry about their other products, their other wireless products, not just for Stadia, but like their wireless hotspot extender and things like that.
Yeah, it's just difficult because you look at this versus getting an Xbox or getting a PlayStation or even just saving up to get a big PC rig, and you try and think, well, is it worth it out of all those options to get Stadia? And I think even from the even from when it was announced, that was never the case for me. There was never a moment where I was like, you know what? Stadia looks like a good alternative. Even if you're someone who's just trying to get into games, this may be your avenue. It was never that for me. And based on these reviews, it looks like it's just not going to be that for many other people either.
Yeah, I just wonder what their long-term strategy is and how much they want to invest in this, because it's not going to be an easy road. You're fighting Microsoft and Sony, who have been players in this, for a long time, and they have the games, they have the exclusives. There are no exclusives on Google Stadia right now. I know that they they started up a first-party studio, I think in Montreal, so they are going to go that route. But how long until are we going to see that pay off? And also, you need to make a AAA title exclusive that people hear about and are buzzing about, right? Like Last of Us Part 2 or those type of games.
Their other option would be, and I think like this was their earlier intentions was for Google Stadia to be initially more of like a your family console, your family service, which was, if you guys remember the Wii U, not the Wii U, but the Oya, or however you pronounce it, that thing, the Android console. Yes, oh shit indeed. Where you had to have batteries in each handle. Let's not talk about it.
That was terrible.
The whole point of that though was for them to create this family console, which, I mean, we have the Switch now, and I said the Nintendo Switch is now the family console. But before we had the Switch, we were kind of lacking that new family, the whole everyone can hop on and play it kind of console. And I think that Stadia would have it would do better marketing towards that, like, you know, like the dad and his kid playing some like Angry Birds or something.
That's what Apple Arcade is trying to do. $5
which
a
is
month,
cheaper,
unlimited, but their games are all like indie titles,
iOS kind of stuff.
Yeah. They're not made for, you know.
But that's a
hardcore gamer.
That's a different battle to fight. You know what I mean? I would rather go up against Apple's new arcade thing than Xbox or PlayStation.
You're right. These two companies have been entrenched for over 20 years at this point.
I'd rather go against Xbox's little arcade system. You know. But once again, like, I don't know, like, yes, like it's going to be difficult streaming these high-end games because of their resources, but there are loads of fun indie games out there. They should have, I think, pushed more for that, you know? Even good games like Torchlight 2. That's not a high resource game at all. That's a great game you can play.
It just got ported to console, actually.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing real quick before we head out of here. Sonic, the redesign. We talked about it, but I guess apparently, you know, people were like, oh my God, it cost them like $35 million to do. Is it worth it? Apparently, they were saying that actually it only cost $5 million. If you factor that in.
Oh, wow.
I suspect the 30 might be delaying and relaunching the marketing campaign and reconfiguring the marketing campaign.
Yeah. Marketing costs a lot of money. That makes a lot of sense.
Also, I think not all the VFX were done anyways.
Yeah,
so
probably.
I think you said it last week. Usually when you see a trailer, that's all the VFX that they've done to that point. In that trailer, that's all the VFX that they have. They have had no VFX for other stuff. So you brought that up last week, and that's a good point. So they didn't have a lot to redo. They had a lot to do anyways, you know?
Yeah, I think he still looks like, I'm sure it's not finished yet because they still have like 3 months, I think, till release. He still looks kind of floaty to me. Like you can tell he's been replaced.
I know there was a lot of specifications. The guy who worked on Sonic Mania, the guy who did the redesign, he said they gave him a lot of specifications and things that they had to meet. For instance, I think one of them was the fact that he had to have 2 separate eyeballs instead of Sonic having the conjoint one big eyeball thing, if you will, being connected in the middle. They took that out. There were a lot of specifications they had to do. Like, looking at the trailer, I'd say he almost matches the height, at least, of the original model.
He's got to.
Yeah, he's got to.
The eye line's got to match still.
Yeah.
So they did a good job considering all the limitations.
But I mean, he looks so much better. He looks like Sonic, and
For sure.
The shoes, like, just the shoes. Just putting the shoes in has made it so much better. You know what I mean?
There's this...
Yeah, I just...
Go ahead. Sorry.
I sorry. No problem. I said this when we first talked about the announcement of the delay to accommodate for redesigning the character. And I'll reiterate it again in that I really hope all the people that complained and made this happen
go
to see the movie.
Yeah.
I really hope so. I don't know if this movie's going to do too well at the box office. I'll be honest.
I'm going to rebut that. I don't think we owe them a goddamn thing.
Savage.
I mean, I was never offended by this movie one way or the other because I was like, whatever, it's a kid's movie. But like the notion that we owe them a ticket because they made something that was fundamentally broken at the conceptual level and then unleashed it, and then everybody's like, that looks bad. They're like, oh, we better fix that. That's not on us. Yeah. That's on them.
No, I get what you mean. What you mean. But at the same time, the fact that there were so many people that said, change it, you have to change it. Was your plan, like, for those people, was your plan to go see the Sonic movie had the design been what you wanted it to be? And I think for those people, the answer would be no.
I think the reality of the situation is that the studio saw the backlash and they realized it's not even about making the fans happy. It's about how do we make money still?
exactly.
It's about making a kids movie with a character that's not frightening.
Yes,
when the first
looks like a psychopath.
Right.
when the first trailer dropped, I was like, I'm definitely not going to watch this. I wasn't really that stoked on seeing a Sonic movie anyways.
Yeah.
But with the newer trailer, it caught my eye. I want to go. I don't want to. I'm not like dying to go watch the movie, but I'm a lot more inclined to watch the movie now with the newer trailer.
It looks more friendly. It looks, yeah, it's not gonna scare your kids.
Like weird teeth.
Yeah.
My main question is, why on earth do you not just make this an animated movie? Like Sonic lives in an animated world. It's the entirety of this decision is strange to me.
I'll tell you why. It's because they had the opportunity to get Jim Carrey to be fun, goofy Jim Carrey again, and
that appeals to me.
And not depressing Jim Carrey.
Yeah, that appeals to me. Wacky Jim Carrey appeals to me.
Oh, he's basically doing Ace Ventura.
Sure, yeah.
It's Ace Ventura Part 3, just in a Sonic movie.
With a crazy mustache.
No, I always said the animated route is the Wreck-It Ralph route is always the best route for Sonic. I mean, the best part, I actually think the new trailer is a lot better. The redesign plus just the trailer itself.
Not just the redesign, but the other VFX is so much better as well.
I think
like the lightning and things like that.
The tone of it, I think, is a lot better. But I will say the best part of that is when he's still in the Green Hill Zone.
Yeah.
Like, why not make a movie about
just make that movie? Yeah, exactly.
Damn straight, yeah.
So
I agree.
I watched a CGI guy break it down for me, and looking back at the original trailer, there was a part where a car gets flipped over, it kind of gets blown up, and there's this electrical shock underneath the car, and that electricity is brighter than the sun, which is not realistic. Like in the same shot, you can see it's brighter than the actual sun, which I was like, is not realistic from a point of view. So if you take a look at the same scene now, they've brought it, like the electricity looks like actual electricity. It doesn't look like this giant CGI boom, you know? It looks like actual physical electricity, which is nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it's only $5 million, if that's what it costs to redesign, that's actually not too bad. 35 is a bit excessive because you don't know how much it's actually going to make.
I mean, that's $30 million for marketing.
My point,
I wouldn't be surprised.
My main point, though, was always like you have to change it because you can't sell merchandise on the creepy one.
Oh, hell no. You got a good point. Could you imagine, just imagine for a second, a plushie of that version of Sonic?
With his teeth?
His teeth?
His
and
horrible
his,
teeth?
Dangly legs with like his non-gloved hands and like it's just really bad. Like who's buying that? Where like the new one, which is based on the original design, is like this cuddly cartoon character.
Who okayed it in the first place? That's what I want to know. Who was sitting at a table and was making a Sonic movie going, that looks like Sonic.
Yeah.
that looks just like Sonic.
That's my point. That's why nobody owes them a ticket. It's like, y'all jacked this up from Jump Street. Like, it's not on me.
That's like giving us a Batman movie and he looks like a dog.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, this creature that looks nothing like the character.
All right, guys. I think that's it for all our topics. Tom, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Start the Machine. Also, I have a podcast network at you can find it on Apple Podcasts at Story Mode, and the Patreon for that is patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. I do podcasts and game streaming with my partners and ex-cracked person as well, David Christopher Bell. So check that out.
And you do writing for Collider?
I do writing for Collider, yes. I thought that was assumed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm also glad you didn't just leave it up in the air with my ex.
Oh yeah,
there was definitely a bit of a gap there. I was like,
hanging there. Yeah.
Josh?
You guys can find me on Instagram at josh.toki, or you guys can find me streaming on Twitch at josh_toki.
Caboose?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at CabooseEK.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero, Instagram, Dennis.tzng. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, youtube.com/collidergames. Also, subscribe to our podcast feed. That's the Collider Factory feed, where we have this show every single week. And we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.
Bye.